Hello, everyone. Thanks a bunch for joining us today. My name is Brett Settles. I'll be doing the webinar over the CDE or documents integration part of Revizto here. It is just me today. I do not have any help on this webinar, so if there are audio problems or anything along those lines, please speak up in chat. I'll try to fix it as soon as I can. We're really going to breeze through this functionality, talk a little bit about why it's valuable, and how it technically works from a setup perspective, and how it will work throughout the life of a particular project. And towards the end, I will open up everything for Q&A, and I will do my best to answer all of those questions. So what we're here for today is to talk about the 4.9 and 4.10 releases, which include the first three of our document integration platforms. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, to get things kicked off, I'd like to introduce myself here. My name is Brett Settles. What I do here at Revizto is I manage the customer success team globally. So we have a growing team of technical professionals spread throughout the globe, with members of my team being in Australia. We have some members in the UK, as well as multiple members here in North America. And my team's goal is specifically geared towards making sure our customers understand where the return on investment in our product is and how to successfully implement it among their teams. Now, another thing about myself is if I sound a little bit weird, I do apologize. I'm recovering from a pretty strong cold right now. So if I misspeak or anything like that, I do apologize in advance. My background personally, I worked for many years as a technology and IT manager for an EPC, industrial EPC. I've worked in the Autodesk channel, municipalities, in GIS, GPS, as well as BIM implementation and consulting. Now, coming to why we're all here today about the document integrations, we're going to run through a few quick slides real quick, and then we're going to jump into the actual software. So the first question that I want to answer in this webinar is, what do these document integrations do for us, and how does it relate to Revizto? Now, when I jump in here, we're going to take a look at some of these items that we're going to be talking about here. Now, anybody that is familiar with Revizto, before we jump into this, if there are new people in the room, I want to make sure that we understand why we have this documents integration. Revizto is a BIM intelligent review and coordination environment that integrates the models, the sheets around a communication and issue tracker that allows you to perform those types of reviews and those models and those drawings. One of the big pieces of feedback that we got, especially on the construction and the subcontractor side of things, was that we love the functionality, we love the hypermodeling aspect of your software, but one of the problems is that we work off of contractual documents. We do not work off of the documents coming out of Revit. This integration, one of the main points that it tries to do is make sure that any sort of 2D documentation that you're using in your project, whether it's contractual or you're issuing it for bid or you're using a document management system on the design side, is to make sure that any drawing that you see or any piece of information that you attached to an issue in Revizto is up to date based on the official documentation. So we'll look at some of these areas here. So for instance, what I just talked about, this integration allows Revizto drawings to be current with the official documents in real time. The important thing about that is that this integration here makes it to where there is no sheet import process for Revizto after the initial setup. We use the data coming from the Revit model and tie that to the contractual documents. As those contractual documents update, we automatically update those in our system. So any Revizto users in the room will know that we used to have an automated export process for sheets. If you are using one of these document management platforms, you can now make it to where we just pick up the sheets from where you publish them to. So that does a few things. That makes it to where you have confidence that the sheets that you're viewing in the field are the correct up-to-date sheets. And it also removes an export process from the workflow. Among other things, as we move forward with Revizto, we are looking at options to get real time with the models as well, and looking to make it to where Revizto can be a plug and play solution with any system that you're using and still allow it to be real time. This also keeps the critical information tied to issues up to date. So for example, if you attach a submittal to an issue and that submittal gets revised or updated, that is going to be reflected in the issue without having to re-upload that PDF. So we're really taking a lot of re-entry out of the process as well. It takes all of this documentation and ties it into our environment with hypermodeling capabilities. So if that is something that you like when you use Revizto, the ability to overlay the drawings and the details and all of that, that is still going to be completely relevant here in this case. It can also act as a viewer of your contractual documents in the field. Inside of our document integration environment, you're going to be able to view the drawings, see the drawing names, and retrieve metadata about the drawings. So even if you're not using them in an integrated way with the model and you're using it out in the field, you can still access those, you can download those, you can cache them, you can use them without network connectivity. And those will always remain current with those documents, as long as they're not updated while you're offline, of course. We also have worked in an algorithm that allows us to adhere to the naming conventions of the contract document. So this means that if you have Revit data and you're pushing sheets from Revit and the official contract documents are named differently, maybe they have a project number appended to the front of them, or maybe they have a descriptor at the end of them, as long as that Revit sheet name is contained in that name, we're going to automatically connect those documents together, as you'll see when we get into the demo portion of this. And the other thing too is that if you're using Revizto and you're using a document management system, up until this point, essentially for basic terms, you've been plotting the sheets twice. You're plotting them into Revizto and you're plotting them into a document management system. So from a technical export-import standpoint, this is going to make it to where those exports, where there are 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 sheets involved, much, much faster. And from our testing, obviously we don't have a lot of feedback from the community, but from our testing, we're looking at about 7 to 10 times faster for very, very large projects. All right, looks like we had a question come through chat. I will definitely get to that at the end there. Looks like it was about ArchiCAD. So actually, I'll go ahead and address this right now. So with ArchiCAD, this is going to work essentially the same way. Now, one of the things we've been testing on heavily is Revit. So before I answer that outright, let me make sure that that same functionality is in ArchiCAD. And what I will do, Vincent, is I will get back to you afterwards about our capability with AutoCAD or with ArchiCAD and make sure that I have a rock solid answer for you there. Now, the integrations that we're working with, we do plan to expand on this. However, the 3 ones that we are working with at this point are BIM 360 Docs, Procore Documents, and Box. So this is going to cover a wide gamut of the industry, right? BIM 360 Docs is used by design companies as well as construction companies, subcontractors. Procore Documents is something that's used heavily by the entire industry as well as Box. And we felt like these were the 3 best places to start. We do plan on expanding on this, especially into the civil side of things with, trying to get things going with something like ProjectWise or something like that. But those are all still in very, very conceptual phases. But once we get the go ahead and we find out from the community feedback what those next systems should be, we will be expanding on that. So let's go ahead and dive into the software here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Revizto, and we're going to take a look at exactly how this integration is going to work from a setup standpoint, as well as the functionality that it's going to give you in the software. One thing to keep in mind is that Revizto functionality from a day-to-day usage standpoint is essentially not going to change very much, right? We're just simply tying these system or these document managers into our system. So first thing I want to do is I want to show right here, you're going to see where the new document integration is. Now, if I click on that, what you're going to see is that right now we don't have any integrations at all. Now, if I go over to 2D, you're also going to see that in this model, we have a lot of information or drawings that have come from Revit. Now, at this point, this is just data. Now, we can do this bidirectionally. You can come in from the CDE first, get the sheets established, and then apply Revit data to the sheets, or you can come in from Revit and bring the sheets to Revit. Now, this will also work with all of your intelligent BIM software. Like I said, I've got a question to answer about ArchiCAD, but this is going to work this way with Tekla. It's going to work this way with ArchiCAD or any of those intelligent BIM softwares that you're using out there. Now, so we have our sheets. Those sheets have come from Revit. And now we want to make sure that we get the corresponding official contract documents linked in here. So if I go to documents, what I can do is I can actually add an integration. And as you can see, I have the ability to access BIM 360, Box, or Procore. And we're going to run through here. We're going to use information out of BIM 360, but if I come in here, if I'm logged into these systems, Revizto adheres to the rights of the systems that I've logged into. I can see the projects that I have available. Anything that's hidden from me, I cannot see. It is all predicated on what those rights are from those systems. So if I click here, I can actually tie into our BIM 360 project. And as you can see, the connection was established. Now, if I want to do the same with Box, I can even tie into a Box folder. Or if I want to connect to a Procore project, I can also connect to a Procore project here. Now, the one thing you'll notice about what I've just done is that we also allow you to connect to multiple document management systems. This project is now connected to Procore, Box, and BIM 360 all at the same time. Now, if I want to see my document integrations, I click on the environment up here, and now I can see those folders that I have connected to. And I can jump in and see all of the drawings in Procore documents. I can open those. I can drive all the way through the structure. I can see the sheet. I can see the metadata around the sheet, and I can even see the versioning and the revisions to the sheet and what systems are making those revisions. As you can see here with Box, very, very similar. The user interface is very, very consistent across any of these applications that you're using here. If I click here, once again, I can see all of the different versions and revision histories of these documents. And there will be an icon as to where those revisions are coming from. Now, if we jump out, and we're going to dive right into our BIM 360 sheets here. As you can see, I can dive in, I can see the project files. I can click here to make these available offline. I get a little indicator letting me know that these drawings are now cached completely offline and that I can view them and work with them in that way. I can open up the folder here and drive right down into my drawings. And let's get all the way to the model that we're going to use here. Now, not only that, but directly from documents, I can click on a drawing and actually get it to where I can view it. Now, keep in mind, this hasn't been put into the issue tracking environment yet. There is a workflow for that. We're actually going to cover that here in a second. But what this does allow me to do is, even if I don't want to work with all of my drawings in the issue tracking environment, I can still see them. So maybe we put all of our drawings into the issue tracking environment. Maybe we leave all of our you know, documentation and contractual information and all the stuff that's just simply Word documents out of the issue tracking environment, but still make it available for our team to read through via the document connection here. Now, if I jump back here, one of the things we want to do is now we want to get this into the intelligent environment where hypermodeling and issue tracking and all of that takes place. What this is going to allow me to do is, as you can see, I can choose to download these sheets once again. So if I want to download these, now the main folder is already downloaded, so I don't necessarily have to do this. But I can actually choose a sheet, say done here, and say that the offline capability of that document was updated, and we will see that download at that level right there. Now, as I look through the drawings, I'm seeing previews. Once again, I'm seeing that metadata. Now, what I want to do at this point is I want to actually send these sheets over to the 2D environment. The way that I'm going to do that is with this button right here, which simply takes sheets from the CDE and drops them into the interactive Revizto environment. If I click here, I can actually take all of these drawings at once. And remember, what we're doing here is we have exported Revit data that is now going to match up with these sheets. I'm going to take all these sheets at once right here. And I'm going to go ahead, say done. And what it's going to do is it's going to run through a process where it downloads the documents from the CDE so that they can be integrated into this environment. While this progress bar is here, I'm going to take the chat. So Albert asked, BIM 360 is integrated. We are getting ready to release it at any moment. So I am working on a test build, but this is one of the final release builds for BIM 360, and it will be coming out very, very soon. Now, what you'll notice here is that we have the imported sheets from the CDE, and they are automatically attaching themselves to the Revit sheet data. So here we can see the actual PDFs coming from the common data environment, in this case, which is BIM 360 docs. And here we can see the intelligent data that they will be matching up with. I'm not getting a preview on any of these sheets because there's no sheet there. That is simply Revit data that we're connecting to at that point. And as you can see, it's done it for all of my documents here. Now, at this point, I can review this, make sure everything's good. If you have a scaling issue, let's say that your sheets in Revit are set up on 24 by 36, and for some reason, someone plots them to the CDE in 22 by 34. You will actually see a warning here that there's a discrepancy between the Revit data and between the actual sheet and the CDE. Now, that will make it to where the overlays won't function right in our software, but in all reality, that contractual document needs to match what's going on in Revit. So it actually acts as a good indicator to let people know that, hey, some of these sheets may not be printed on the right size paper. Now, once all this is done, I can go ahead and say done. It's going to process that data in. And you're going to see here that every one of these sheets now has an icon that represents that these sheets are coming from BIM 360. And we can see that icon right over here. Now, let's dive into one of these sheets and see what it's all about. I open this up, and now we're back to what Revizto is all about, right? We have the documentation. I can come in here. I can drop a stamp on it. Let me go ahead and add these demo stamps in here. So maybe I have a design issue. I want to put a hold on this. I can drop that stamp right in there. Whenever I go to the issue tracker and I look at that stamp, we have full 3D and 2D capability with all of the drawings that are in the project. Keep in mind, all of these sheets, every single one of them, is automatically updating from the document management system. They are always up to date. Now, if we want to get into some of the other things that we've shown in the past, is obviously like our hypermodeling capability. As you can see, the data and the drawing match up. Uh-oh. There we go. For some reason, Navisworks wanted my screen right there. but we can see that the information matches up exactly how we set it up. But now instead of getting those drawings are just up to date in real time from the actual CDE. So when we're talking about construction, if people are issuing new sheets and they are doing things like changing dimensions on modeled elements or anything like that, which causes huge problems in the field, those are actually going to be highlighted here now because the sheet is going to have that essentially fudged dimension, and the model is going to reflect the model that's still coming from the other environment or from the Navisworks or the Revit environment. So a really great way to compare what your model is looking like in comparison to what is actually living in your CDE and is actually contractual. Now, on top of this, if we come in here, let's go ahead and we're going to look at, go over here and choose something a little bit more fun, like a wall section. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this wall section right here. We're going to see that it matches up exactly with where it needs to go. And let's say that we're going to create an issue on this wall section right here. So I'm going to grab a stamp. I'm going to go here. Maybe we just put a hold on it again. I know I'm being boring with the issue creation here. So we drop a hold right there, right on that. Now, what I'm going to do here is, let's go back. We got the issue tracker, 2D, 3D. Go ahead and edit the section a little bit. Push that back there so we can see that issue a little bit better. There we go. So now we have this issue here with this wall section. And let's say that we want to add some critical data to it. That is where the CDE integration with 360, Procore, and Box comes in handy once again. And this is a piece of feedback that we really got from our subcontractor clients where they, it started off very simple. I want to attach a submittal and I don't want to have to update it whenever it gets updated. Now we can reach directly into the document management portion of our software, attach a document. So maybe I want to go down here and just say, all right, here's the structural details. They're relevant to this issue. I can attach that. And now that document is attached to that issue. It indicates what system it's coming from. And once again, it is always up to date. So that really covers the two main use cases for the document integration platform. And really, when we talk about the functionality, what we really strived for with this integration was that everyone who could use Revizto or anyone who is potentially going to use Revizto could still use Revizto in the way that it was meant to be used with the highly contextual information, the drawings, the reality capture, the models all in the same place, but tie into that process, which really drives our industry, and that is those constructual or contractual documents. So let's go in. I'm going to go into chat first. We're going to talk about a few of these questions here. So we already got to Albert's question. We talked to Vincent a little bit. Now, I've got to make sure that I am almost 100% positive that ArchiCAD functions exactly the same way as Revit, but I will definitely confirm and get back to you on that. Now, Kirk has another question here that says, is revision history available for documents attached to issues, or will it only show the most current version? So what happens is let's say that someone goes into this issue and they need to access that document. When they click on it, it takes them back to where that document is and shows it to them in the documents right here. Now, if we come in here and we look at those details, this is where we can see that data, and we can see that we can open it as a document, we can open it there, but we can also see how many issues are related to this sheet as it lives in the CDE. And here we can also see that revision history. So here we can see This is where this sheet was uploaded from Revit into Revizto. Here's where that connection was made. And here's where it was updated in the CDE. If I want to see the issues, I can click right there on related issues, and it automatically filters out all of the issues that reside on that particular sheet, basically bringing that whole thing full circle from issue back to document and then back to the issue again. All right, so Frankie, glad to have you today, Frankie. So Frankie's question is, are you able to load the box/Procore connections after the project has been created? The answer to that is absolutely yes. So if I come into documents and I go all the way back out to home where these connections were created, I can actually detach these. So if we don't want Box or Procore anymore, I can actually detach those and they will be removed. And then maybe I say mid-project, well, oh man, I need those Procore documents back. I can just go right back in and add them on the fly. The way that it will work with your connected sheets is that it will give you an option if you want to keep the most recent cached copy when you make the connection. So for instance, you make a connection from Procore to the documents, you disconnect Procore, it's going to ask you, what do I want to do with these sheets? And at that point, it will give you an option to keep the latest cached document from the CDE. All right, let's see here. When a document is updated in Box, would it sync the 2D in Revizto automatically without having to reconnect? That is absolutely correct. Most of what I've shown today is not a daily workflow. This is more of a project setup. So for instance, once this connection that you see here is made and the connections to the 2D environment are established, at that point, it's essentially hands-off unless you start moving views around on sheets, which in that case, you would need to export the viewport data again from Revit. But this is not something that's meant to be a daily task. This is something that's meant to be set up at the beginning of a project and go for a period of time without any sort of maintenance. So Rafael Silva has a really good question here. When recommending to use this integration in the construction side, why not use it all in the same system? I've got what I think is a pretty decent answer to that. Revizto is solely focused on being the most robust and innovative collaboration software out on the market. So what we like to do is we like to spend our time focusing on collaboration innovations within our system and really becoming the connective tissue between established tools like BIM 360 on the design side and Procore on the construction side, while seamlessly tying into everything. There's a lot of discussion about this, do we want to manage documents? And I think the answer really is no. I mean, there's a lot of established players in managing these documents, such as Procore, Autodesk, Ignite, ProjectWise, all of this. We want to make Revizto your plug-and-play collaboration solution into these, because we consider ourselves a best-in-class software. And if we go and try to rewrite the wheel on document management, chances are we're not going to be able to do it at the level that these other people are already at. And on top of that, we would have to unroot these systems that exist inside of our client database. We feel like making Revizto a solution where you can open it, you can know that your information is current, and you can use it to the best of its ability is definitely the way to go. So that is why we are offering a document integration into these other solutions, is so that you have the option of what coordination solution you want to use based on what we offer, and not necessarily have to make that decision based off of well, we're going to have to use it because we already use Revizto for all these other things. It really allows the industry to have choice and not have to make decisions on software that is half-baked or not ready for prime time yet, based on the fact that it's attached to a much larger solution that you already use. So Kirk asks, when attaching a document to an issue, does it remember which revision at which it was added? What if an updated version of a file has a different name? Example, naming it R1. So whenever you attach a document to an issue, it will not remember which revision it was attached at. However, you would be able to see that in the screenshot of the issue. And this is a really, really good question. And maybe it's something that we need to think about as we roll out updates for this. Being able to see it when an issue is dropped on a sheet, which revision that sheet was dropped on. So right now we do not have this capability. We do have a few ways that we could figure this out, but I think this is something really, really good for us here at Revizto to reflect about and maybe add in a future update here. All right, and before we move to the Q&A section, we've got one last item here from Kyle Snyder. Can you sync issues back to the document platform? For me, this would be BIM 360, or pull issues from BIM 360 into Revizto. This is something that we have gotten questions about on the BIM 360 side, as well as the Procore drawing side. Now, this is something that we're thinking about in the future. Right now, if any platform that you're working with is BCF capable, which stands for BIM collaboration format, you will have this functionality through that format. However, just like with the revision, the revision indicator above, this is most likely something that we're going to have to expand on. And in a lot of situations, these are actually different APIs with these different companies. So for Procore example, the way you integrate with Procore documents is actually different than the way that you integrate with Procore drawings. All right, so let's move on to the Q&A part of this. Oh, looks like we've got one more chat. Oh, never mind. All right, let's start with the actual questions here. So Ken Bracken asks, are you planning on supporting Bluebeam Studio? We actually get this question quite a bit. I think that the answer is, it probably is yes. We've got a lot of other solutions that we are targeting after these three that we've shown in this webinar today. With Bluebeam actually being one of them that's rising on the priority list because of the architectural clients that we have and the engineering clients that we have, and even some of the construction companies we have that use Bluebeam. So I think the answer to this is yes, but that's about as far as I know with Bluebeam Studio. The other thing with some of these other integrations that we have to make is a lot of it depends on the relationship or where we stand with actually reaching out to these companies. But Bluebeam Studio is definitely on our radar as far as someone that we would integrate with this functionality. So Joel Frank asks, will you have to manually cut sections to the sheets if they use docs? The answer to that is if you have information that you can bring in from Revit or ArchiCAD or Tekla or any of that, the answer is no. If these sheets are coming in directly from the CDE, which is we are completely capable of, you do not have to have Revit data to make this integration work for you. But if they come in without Revit data, you will have to manually cut the sheets. However, once you cut that section for the sheet and apply its issue view range, it will not have to be cut again. And that sheet will always automatically update in the position that you've manually placed it in the model. is BIM 360 doc integration with the next gen. We are integrated with the most current version of docs, and as they change how they operate with us, we will change with them. So Joel asks here, Joel Frank again asks, what if the PDF doesn't have a Revit model of the 3D portion, but we want to link the PDF? So in this situation, going back to that question before, if you link, so let's go back in here real quick. So for instance, let's dive out of here and let's add a new integration in here. And I'm gonna show this real quick because I do think it's important for the webinar. If I connect into Box, and let's say that we just go to so these drawings right here, they are not from this project, but I want to show this functionality here. If I go into the specifications part of this, which we may not have anything, let's go here. So if I go into architectural for this drawing right here, maybe I'm clicking around in the wrong spots here. Let's see if I can get some drawings going on. Let's go where I know there are some. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to connect the folder first. School PDFs, connect the folder. My apologies out there. Little mishap, user error on my part. So now we're connected to those box folders. I can open up those drawings, and here we can actually see these architectural drawings. Notice that they populate now. Now, these drawings here, they have no Revit data at all in this project, completely different. I can still add these to the 2D environment. And it will download those documents and populate those into the 2D environment, but they will behave specifically like our PDF imports. However, these also will always remain up to date. And we'll come back to that here in a second. So, Kyle, we already got to that. Right now we cannot, but we do plan to get to there sometime in the future. So here you go. A101 from this project does not match this project, even though the name scheme is the same. However, it warns us that that's there. Now, if I connect only or disconnect this, we can see that this will actually populate a box folder in our 2D area. And now I can see all of those drawings brought in from Box. You'll notice that there's no 3D capability, but all of the 2D capability is there. So if I want to go in there, drop issues, any of that, I can do that right there inside of that connection. All right, so Robert asks, does Revizto link to the Drawings tab in Procore or only to the Documents tab? At this point, it's only to the Documents tab. There is definitely discussion around getting into the Drawings tab and somehow corralling the drawings, the documents, and everything back into Revizto. We have not gotten there yet, but this is definitely something that we are looking at and has already been brought up by quite a few of our Procore using customers. So something that we're definitely looking at there. And then Simon, for our last answer here, he asked, if there's a new version of a Revit model with no new sheets or moved views, do I only have to update the 3D model? The answer to that is yes. And in fact, in a lot of situations, unless you rearrange your views on your sheets, from here on out, if you're using this functionality, you will only be updating your model from Revit. You will not be updating your sheets from Revit. And then after 5.0, when we start working with Forge and the models there, the hope And what our ambitions are is to make Revizto completely real-time 3D and 2D. All right, so let me go ahead and make sure we don't have any more questions here. All right. All right, looks like we got to those. No more in the chat dialogue. All right, here we go. Will Revizto have any AR capability? So once again, a question that we get all the time. Right now, obviously, we have our VR capability. Now, when people ask about AR capability, I want to make sure that we're clear about where Revizto plans to head with AR capability. So our first target is going to be AR capability on the iPad, meaning that you can turn on whatever system that you want to see, and you can point that iPad, at the reflected ceiling, or not the reflected ceiling plan, but the ceiling panels above you, and actually see what's behind those particular panels, or see what's in a wall. It's our first AR venture is not going to be like a HoloLens or a Visual Live type setting. It's very much going to be iPad based. Once we get that out, which there is no ETA on that at all, then we're going to look towards the headsets and things like that. But our first AR capability is definitely something that we're discussing, and you will definitely see it on a mobile device before you actually see it in an immersive headset. So hopefully that answers that question there. All right, let's go to chat real quick. Can you post this webinar to YouTube? So we will post this webinar to YouTube. It will be delayed a little bit. The way that we do this is that we have our live attendees who get to experience the webinar live. Those who registered but did not make the webinar will receive the video via email as soon as it's ready. And then we will post this to YouTube most likely in a week or two. All right, everyone. Well, I want to thank you very much for attending this webinar with Revizto today. It's been great having all you guys here. Love the turnout. Had about 100 people in the room until we started getting into Q&A. Definitely appreciate it. And as soon as this recording is out, we will make sure that it gets to everyone. And if you have any questions at all about our product or about this integration or how Revizto can help you in the future with future projects, or expanding the use of Revizto, please be sure to reach out to me, reach out to your local sales representative. And back to the beginning of this, my team is here and is dedicated to make sure that our clients have a successful rollout and know where all of the value in our software is. So we'd be more than happy to answer your questions, and everyone have a great afternoon.